they expect me to walk away from Luton with nothing, I'll make very sure there's nothing to walk away from.
Hello and welcome to the Oak Road Hatter podcast, and again we are back from an international break following England qualifying for Euro 2024. Jamie, of course, you were there as always, but we've also got a returning figure in Dylan Bundia here today. So I'm going to start with you, Dylan. How are you getting on?
Yeah, good to be back. Good to be back on the pod. Feels like ages. Probably is ages, to be honest.
It is good to have you back. Jamie and Kieran have been driving me up the wall. Jamie, how are you getting on?
Kieran's been driving me up the wall, you mean? It's good to have Dylan back. Adds a lot of stuff to our pod. In terms of me, I'm to be honest, I'm pretty exhausted. I've done an hour of spin today for charitable causes for work. So yeah, it's been a good day. But I'm going to sleep well tonight.
So Premier League action is back. Game week number 9 for the Hatters as we look ahead to Nottingham Forest away, a fixture that 2 seasons ago was in the Championship. We travelled up there, the three of us, for that well played 0-0. Hopefully hopefully there's a bit more action, but I'll take a point now, that is for sure. We're going to be speaking through that game. We're going to look at different battles. We're also going to look a little bit about the formation. Of course, we've tried out a fair few different formations so far this season. So there's a big talking point in what we do going forward. We're also going to look at the 3 latest polls that we put out earlier, and that will round us off today. So I think we will start with Forest, Jamie. Sitting 13th in the table as things stand, 9 points from 8. They've had a fairly difficult start in terms of the fixture list. What have you made of Forest so far?
Yeah, it's interesting that they're a completely different side to the one that we faced, as you mentioned, 2 years ago. Obviously, their 30-odd signings last season was well advertised by the media, and then something like 10 or so, probably even more than that this year. But yeah, very good side, very good player in Gibbs White, and I've got a few others that they can play on the other side, be it Hudson-Odoi or Elanga. So they've got some very creative, fast, technical, wide players. And yeah, as you say, tough start. I think, again, they're probably in that bracket of clubs that we could compete with to stay up ahead of. I think Forest fans probably wouldn't agree with that. I think that they're probably looking more up the table, but still, if you look at the teams that went down last year, they're certainly a team to be got at. So yeah, it's a big game this weekend, and as you say, take a point probably. But yeah, if we won the lot with 10 to go, you wouldn't, right? So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game.
And Dylan, you are a local. You are pretty much living in Nottingham. So what's the feeling like around from Forest fans that you may know? What is the feeling this season, do you think, compared to last season, which is like our season? It's their it's their second after a relatively impressive first. Do you think that they're in a better position now than they were last year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm around Notts County fans a lot more than Forest, but yeah, I think definitely looking, like Jamie's alluded to there, they made a lot of signings and they've signed in the summer as well, but there's a bit more continuity around what they're doing. And yeah, for sure, like last season was very much a building season for them, even though they might have had higher expectations given the money they spent, but that was realistically what it was always going to be. And then this season it's all about pushing on for them, I think, and even though we'd probably view them in a category of team that we can take points off, although I think based on what we've shown so far, we can take points off most teams in this league anyway. But I think we can take points off them, and very much for them, they'll look at that as we're pushing top half, top 7. I think so. I'm not really around Forest fans that much. I'm around County fans a lot more, and they're very happy at the minute most of the time. I think it's definitely second year under Cooper in the Premier League, looking to kind of push on a lot more.
Fair to say that it's all happy around Nottingham with both clubs doing well at the moment. You mentioned there it's their second season. Steve Cooper, still in the infancy of his Premier League managerial career, and you do see on a lot of occasions the second season proving too much for certain teams. It doesn't really seem like that this season, Jamie. You've alluded to they could be brought into a relegation dogfight, that you could look at them as a team that we want to better to, increase our chances of survival. But do you see them as a better standard, at a better standard than they were last season, or second season syndrome, could that come to haunt them?
I think as a squad, they're probably a more refined and balanced squad. I think their transfers last summer, in terms of the season they went up from the Championship, was just a bit pick and mix, right? Like they signed anyone that they thought could improve them as a squad without really thinking too much in terms of squad balance and the bigger picture. Whereas I think they've refined their squad a little bit more. The last summer, the one just gone, I think Morgan Gibbs-White, for me, is on that cusp of bringing call up. I think he's a fantastic player. Alluded to the other wide players they've got. They've got Awaniyi, centre forward. Fortunately for us, I think is injured. So that probably is a big drop off to Chris Wood in terms of that first or second choice. You look at their midfield, I think it's industrial. I think you've got Dominguez, Mangala, and Sangare. I think it's a very industrial midfield, and one that would take a lot to get past. But do they add too much going forwards? Probably not. I mean, I saw Sangare a lot last year at PSV, and certainly is prone to a mistake or two. And then back four, I mean, they signed Murillo, who I think has got rave reviews from his first couple of games. So again, sort of jury's out a little bit in terms of he's very early in his Forest career. But yeah, I think that they're a team that probably, if you look back on at the end of the season and they've got top 7, top 8, as Dylan said, you probably think, yeah, well, they're a good side. They've got 3 very good industrial midfielders, but equally, I think I wouldn't be surprised if you look back on the season and they're fighting for their lives. I think the margins between that 9th and 17th are so slim. I think last year, without looking at the table, there's a 10-15 point gap from sort of bottom 3 up until mid-table and just above. So it's such a tight division. So they're going to be an interesting team to watch beyond our game this season.
And Dylan, there can be parallels to be drawn from their first season back in the Premier League last year and what's been seen so far. I think they were 4 points from 8 games, like we are at the moment. They also came through the playoffs. The major difference was the money spent assembling that Premier League squad. And we're just speaking to a Nottingham Forest fan on the Nottingham Forest podcast, and pretty much alluded to the fact that the media's narrative, the media will always have something to criticise because Luton haven't spent as much as we should have, and Forest spent too much. So is there ever a right way to do it?
It depends on the circumstances of your club. I think if you've got owners who can pump in however much money into a transfer window to help you secure your place in the division, and that is a sustainable way of doing it, which it probably isn't, but if they can keep pumping that money in, then that's the right way. If you want to do it sustainably like we have, because we haven't got the resources to go and spend money, then that is the right way. I think it's very specific to your club and what the outcomes you want to get as a club and what the plan is over the next 5 years. Is there actually a plan? Is it just a case of, and I'm just speculating, do some clubs, try and do stuff window by window? Do some clubs have a real genuine idea of where they want to be in 5 years, and what can they risk? Can they take higher risks and be prepared to take the drawbacks of that? So I think it really depends on your club. I think we've done it our way, which is we can't go and spend loads of money, but we're going to build in a sustainable way and be prepared for the fact that if we did go down, we'll be in a strong position, and we'll be able to, as a club, be in a really strong place financially. Other clubs will do it differently in a way that suits them. So I think for the media, I think it's, there's always a narrative, isn't there? But I think the nuance is it's always about your situation as a club and what you need to do in that moment to help achieve your kind of outcomes for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long you want to look in the future.
Stylistically speaking, Jamie, what are you expecting from Forest? Just to chuck a few numbers at you. Forest sit 18th in terms of possession this season. Luton are rooted to the bottom at 20th. And in terms of aerials won, Forest sit in 4th place and Luton are in 1st place. So does that, to you, suggest that this game could be two rather direct sides trying to break down each other with athleticism, physicality? Will we see Forest as the home side impose themselves more and potentially play a more possession-based game and look to hurt us in the final third? What are you expecting? How do you expect Forest to approach this, and do you expect us to approach it in a similar manner?
I think stylistically, the way I see it is we're probably trying to get towards their style in terms of a team that can do both, can do direct when it needs to be direct, and also play the more passing, attractive style of play. I think in terms of that possession stat, right, I think it's been a tough start for them. They've had Arsenal away, United away, Burnley, who are a possession-based sides, Chelsea away, City away. Like, they've had a tough start, so that feeds into that possession stat, because that they're going to be low 40s, high 30% possession at those sort of clubs and games. So I think it's really tough to read into those sort of stats early on in the season. In terms of how they're going to approach the Luton game, I would expect them to take it to us. I think they're definitely going to not necessarily dominate the ball, but have the large share and proportion of the ball. And I think they're developing in a way that they're going to try and be a bit more of a technical, I guess, what I call like a cute side in terms of the way they play in transition. So I think it's going to be a game similar to Fulham away for us, where they're going to dominate the ball and they can definitely create chances. They've got a centre forward in Chris Wood, who probably is not going to add too much to them between the boxes, but he's certainly an 18-yard box striker in terms of that poacher, certainly at the age that he is. So we're going to need to stop them at source rather than rely on stopping Chris Wood, because if he gets an inch in the box, he's certainly going to make the most of it. So I'm definitely expecting a game that's a lot like Fulham away.
Same for you, Dylan. Do you think it's going to be potentially like Fulham, where we were happy enough to sit in and play quickly through the thirds in the attacking transition? I guess one key difference will be the Lokonga factor. Against Fulham, Lokonga was quite influential in the attacking transition and pushing us forward with pace. Can you see us sitting back, soaking up pressure and playing on that counter attack?
I think initially, yeah. I think, like Rob always says, it's about moments and picking your moments to go and be aggressive. You can't always sit in, but you can't always engage. And I think, like, especially with Forest, with the athleticism they have, with the way that they're able to counter attack, I think if you open yourself up too quickly, they'll get the ball into Hudson-Odoi. They'll get the ball if Elanga plays. And although, Elanga is very, very good at carrying the ball, and the output around the box isn't quite there yet, still, it'll cause problems. And then Gibbs White in the pocket, if he does play in the 10, I know he played wide against Palace. I think if you open up in the wrong moments too early away at Forest, then they'll get the ball into those kind of star quality players, Gibbs White and Hudson-Odoi, and they'll cause us massive, massive problems. So I think it will. I think we'll probably kind of revert back to the way we set up against Fulham and just look to protect it and make sure we build our way into the game and give ourselves a platform, and then pick our moments to go and say, right, let's go and engage now, because we can do that. But I think it will. And I think a lot of our away games will look like that. But we're really going to have to be really, really good when we do have the ball. We can't turn it over, because if we turn it over when we have the ball, that's when we're out of shape, and that's when they'll really hurt us. So yeah, I think I don't see us really like going man to man or anything like that against Forest away, like we did against Spurs. But yeah, it will be about picking our moments to go and be aggressive, and making sure when we do have it, we look after it, we don't turn it over, because that's when they'll hurt us.
Now, I'm aware you'll find me, Jamie, for mentioning the fact that every Premier League game is tough. But when you look at the schedule coming up between now and the next international break, we've all alluded to the fact that it's difficult. It's a lot more difficult than the run of games we've had on paper. Do you see this Forest game as a, must take a point, or we need to take a point here? Do you think a defeat leaves us in a difficult place going into, Villa, Liverpool, and Manchester United?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think, as you said, from the top of my head, the five between now and the next international is Forest away, Villa away, Liverpool at home, United away, Palace at home. So you're looking at those bookends, right, in terms of Forest away and Palace at home as the two games where really you need to take 3 or 4 points from those two. Without, I think that needs to be what we need to target. I wouldn't say it's fatal to not get a point at Forest. I think absolutely it's definitely a massive game in terms of getting something on the board, and it's important to keep that points tally ticking over. But yeah, it's not fatal. I think Villa away, they're doing fantastic at the minute. They've stuck 6 past Brighton, but that again is a one-off game. Liverpool at home, United away. I think, why can't we get something? You've got a Liverpool side who are much better than last year, but I think they're still vulnerable at the back. And if we can nick something, I wouldn't be surprised. And then equally at United, they're struggling, and I think that they've got a lot of pressure on them at the minute. So yeah, I think big game. And if you look at the game on paper, obviously football's not played on paper, but you're probably looking at needing 35, 40 points to stay up, and you probably need to get 1 point from Forest away. So yeah, it's all about trying to find that right balance, as it is all season. Never too high, never too low. Because if we are sat here on Sunday morning talking about a defeat of Forest, we can't get too low, as it's going to be all season.
Where do they hurt us, Dylan? Jamie's mentioned a few players already, players that are direct, quick, very creative, in the likes of Elanga, even Origi. I completely forgot that Origi was playing his football at Forest, which still feels very strange to me. But where do you see them hurting us in terms of the area of the pitch, and what individuals do you think Rob Edwards will be highlighting?
Well, I think it will be getting down the sides of us, really. That will be the key areas. I mean, this is why I think Forest won't get dragged in to anything towards the bottom end of the table this season, because they've just got a few players in Hudson-Odoi. I know Awoni's injured, who will get them enough goals and enough goal involvements to be comfortable. But yeah, I think Hudson-Odoi is the obvious one. There's not long ago Bayern Munich wanted him, and he was supposed to be playing for England or whatever. So he's I think they signed him for like 3 million or something as well, which is crazy. But yeah, he's the key one they'll be looking at. It depends. I think Gibbs White. Do they play him wide? Do they move him more central? I don't know. That really depends. So I think it is those wide areas that they could really hurt us in. But at the same time, if they push Gibbs White in central behind Chris Wood and then play Elanga out on the right or something, it really is across all those areas. But I would probably say, yeah, those wide areas are where Forest like to build. From the limited stuff I've seen of them, they like to try and penetrate through there, work a lot of switches of play, a lot of diagonals, and isolating our back line. So it'll be interested to see what kind of personnel we go with in the back line, because I know Mads is injured as well, so we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, I think it'll be those wide areas getting down the sides. But to be honest, I think if they push Gibbs White in, then there is all across the kind of final third, I guess, a lot of good quality players who can hurt us.
We are going to head into a short break, but when we're back, we've got the free polls of this week, and we'll also be asking Jamie and Dylan for their lineup predictions and score predictions. We are back for part 2 of today's episode, and we're going to get right stuck in with the 3 polls of the week. The first one we put out was, are you more or less confident about our chances of survival now than before the season started? Of course, we're 8 games in now, 4 points on the board, sitting outside of the relegation places. But Jamie, are you more confident about our survival chances of what you've seen?
I sort of gave an answer to this on episode 105. So if you've not watched that, go back and watch that. But for the
It's a
benefit
wasted
of
question.
but for the benefit of those that aren't listening or didn't listen to 105, I'm really intrigued to see what Dylan's answer is. But I was very much of a Billy Muddy fence sitter for this question. I think my overall summary is I think I've been impressed with large parts of performances. I think we've adapted in general better than I thought we would from a performance level, which makes me a bit more confident. But I just feel like there's always going to be in a game 1 or 2 things that happen that mean we come out on the wrong end of margins. And I think as a Premier League follower now, obviously I watched the Premier League for years, but did not as intently as I have been now that Luton are in it. You just come to realise that it really is a league of margins. Like we could have lost that game to Spurs 3-0 inside 15 minutes, but equally we could have won it 1-0 straight after the second half, and that shows the margins in that game in particular. And the narrative changes so much if we come away from that game beating Spurs 1-0 to stop their unbeaten streak, and we're on cloud 9. We're on 7 points, probably on what 15th or 14th, and we're thinking, yeah, what a start. So that makes me feel a bit less confident that I think we might just not have enough because of those margins. So I think net nil is my answer. I think I'm net just as confident as I was pre-season.
What about yourself, Dylan? Are you more confident now, same level of confidence, or are you less confident now?
I'd probably say slightly more confident. And I know that results haven't been amazing, but I just think from what we've shown, kind of similar to what Jamie said, from what we've shown in the first however many games it's been, we have more than competed in the majority of games. And yes, the margins are causing us problems, but I genuinely think we will come good. And I don't mean we're going to go and win loads of games. I mean, I think we are better than 3 other teams in this league. And if we can get little moments to click, we are so close to being an above bottom 3 team in the Premier League, because our performance levels are showing that. And I think going into the season, it was very difficult to really understand where we were. But when you look at it on paper around, the caliber of signings we were making and the level that they had played at previously, it was difficult to really judge exactly where we were. But I think those guys have shown, look at Ogbene, those guys have really shown that they can play at this level, and they do offer a lot at this level. And I genuinely think, like, you look at the Fulham game, you look at Burnley, you look at Spurs even, I think we have shown that we can compete, and we have a physical baseline and a real good structure and a way of doing things that actually, like, if a few things go our way, we can win games consistently. Well, not consistently, but enough to stay in the league. So yeah, I'm actually a bit more confident, especially after the Brighton game, because the Brighton game was obviously very, very difficult, and I don't think we really got near them. And now we've gone and played Spurs and approached it in that way. Obviously, first 15 minutes we've really struggled, but after that we've put together a good performance against a very good team who dominate the ball, and I think so. Yeah, I'm probably a little bit more confident, even though we've had a few tough results recently.
Yeah, it has been really interesting that after the first 2 games, the 6 that have followed, we have been very competitive. You look at every single game, we've created enough openings to warrant us feeling aggrieved when the result hasn't gone our way. And I think that's a really positive position to be in. So I'd agree with you, Dylan, that I'm slightly more confident, and looking at the results of that poll, we had 34% at more confident, we had 44% at the same level of confidence, and we had 22% at less confident. Now, we move on to poll number 2, which is which formation better suits our current squad. We've got the 5-1-2-2 or the 3-5-2, which is pretty much when you have Adebayo, Morris up top, what we started the season with and what was so successful in the Championship. We've got the 5-2-3 or the 3-4-3, which we've probably shown our best moments in this season, with Ogbene out on the left. And then we've got 4-2-3-1, which was the first half against Tottenham. Of course, we haven't seen too much of that, but we've obviously got that early glimpse of it. So flipping that, I'm going to ask Dylan first. Which formation out of those 3 do you think currently better suits our squad?
It's just total cop-out answer, but it's about the I think we have a squad that is, from a profile point of view, very flexible. For example, Jacob Brown can play wide right quite comfortably in 3-4-3, in 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2, whatever it was against Spurs, and can play front 2 as well in 3-5-2. So I think it really, this is again, it's a cop-out answer, but this is what I think. I think it is really dependent on the game. And the needs of the game. Like the way we played against Spurs in the 4-4-2 out possession was, I don't even know if you could describe that as a 4-4-2 because they were just marking everyone, and that was completely reactive to the opposition in terms of we identified the issues that they might bring us and how we were going to approach that, and then created a plan to kind of solve the performance problems that they would bring us. And that suited that game. So I think it's very difficult to say because we have a flexible squad, which is really, really important. Look at Reece Burke playing right of the 3 to right back. Amari Bell can play left of the 3, left back. We've got so much flexibility in there. Chong can play right or left of a midfield 3 and go wide. We've built a squad that's flexible, and we've done that for a reason because we need it. So difficult to say. It really depends on the opposition and the needs of the game, because Forest away looks completely different to Spurs at home, looks completely different to Liverpool away. All these games need different things. So I'm going to absolutely sit on the fence and not give an answer because, well, that's my answer, because I don't think you can have a one thing that suits everyone the best with our squad, because I think we're so flexible.
We do love fence sitting on this podcast. Billy Mully special, as we call it. Jamie,
needs to be more controversial, guys. Come on.
Are you the same, or is there a formation that sticks out in your mind? If I flip it a little bit, if we're looking to really impose ourselves on opposition and we're not really reactive, we're not reacting to the problems we expect them to create, what formation would you go for?
That feels a bit of a different question to the first one. I think if we're looking at purely impact on opposition, I like the 4-2-3-1 in terms of getting more forward players to support Morris, and equally having a bit more of a midfield base that isn't quite isolated as seems like is the case in the 5-2-3. So I think if we look 12, 18 months in the future, I think if we were to revisit this, I think the 4-2-3-1 would be something that we see more often. But what makes me hesitant is that I just don't think we've got the wide defenders capable of a back four at the minute. I think, you can definitely do a bit sort of square pegs in round holes like Reece Burke. Like, I think he's a fantastic centre half, and for me, one of the best centre halves at the football club. Yet you're forced to play him at right back because you've not got an actual right back. Kabore, I think, has been harshly treated a little bit in terms of the fans. I think he's done okay. He's not done amazingly, but I think he's done okay if you add a lot of context to where he's come from. But you certainly wouldn't stick him right back in a 4 unless you put Bell at left back. I think you might do if you have a bit more of a solid left side, but then that means Doughty or Giles drops out, and as you said off the pod, could play them left wing rather than left back. So I wouldn't be surprised if in January we were to go out and sign one or maybe two actual fullbacks. And I think if we did, then I can see the 4-2-3-1 being a bit more of a common setup. I think especially now with Townsend, right? You could certainly have Ogbene, Brown and Townsend as the three attacking midfielders behind Morris, and that as a front four would be really exciting. So yeah, I think as we sit right now, I think it's got to be a back three, straight back five. And given the impact that Ogbene has had out wide, I think it's got to be the 5-2-3. I think Doughty and Ogbene, that partnership in a couple of games so far has been fantastic. Brown playing out on the right, or you've got Chong that could come in. Eli's played out on left a little bit. Townsend now, new signing. So we're a lot more suited towards a bit more of a wider style of play in terms of getting wingers and getting crosses into the box rather than playing through the middle as we did last year with that 2-1-2 in terms of that midfield through to front line. So yeah, as we sit here today, 5-2-3. If you ask me, come next summer or the summer after, probably 4-2-3-1. I think that's certainly the path that we're going towards.
And as the Luton fan base have called it, we had 16% with 5-1-2-2 or the 3-5-2. We had 53% at 5-2-3 or the 3-4-3. And then we had 31% at 4-2-3-1. Let's go to the final poll, which was away from sort of the stylistic and player perspective element. Do Luton Town pick up more points at Kenilworth Road or away from home this season? And if you were to believe the media and check out their narrative, we weren't going to pick up any points away from home this season, and Kenilworth Road was almost instantly supposed to be a fortress, and that was how we were going to stay up if we had any chance. We all know football doesn't work that kind of way, and we've proven already the only win we've got on the board is away from home. Also, you look back to last season and even the season before that, we were more effective away from home. Do you think, Dylan, that we'll pick up more points at Kenilworth Road this season, or do you think it will be another season of picking up more points on the road?
I think the biggest difference between this season and last season is, I think going away to the big six clubs is significantly more difficult than playing them at home. Psychologically, I think that's the biggest difference between this season and last season. Whereas we went to Sheffield United away and so on and got points there. Whereas now we look at Man City away and we think, oh, I'd love us to get points there. It'd be amazing, but we're probably not. So I think that's the biggest difference, and probably why I'd say this year probably get more at Kenilworth Road. However, at the same time, we lost to Burnley at home. We lost to West Ham. We've lost to Spurs. So I think, and we've got points against Everton away. So I think it's really difficult to say, because I think it can be overplayed a little bit around the teams that are around our level. I'd probably below top 6, top 7. I think it's a lot more evens around home and away, although there is statistically home advantage, generalizing massively. But I think the biggest difference is those top 6 teams where it's very, very hard to go away to Liverpool, Anfield and get anything. So yeah, I'd probably say marginally on home, but I don't think there'll be that much variation, to be honest.
Jamie, let's quickly do the maths, because of course we're not getting any more than 11 points because we're not beating we're not getting past Derby's record, are we? So we've already got 3 away from home. We've got 1 at home, 3 away from home. 1 at home. There's not much more wiggle room to pick up points. So where's your head at?
No, if we're getting 10 points, then we're basically almost halfway in terms of the away points. But no, yeah, I agree with Dylan completely. I think the step up in terms of opposition, it's not like a League One to Championship step up, which is obviously big, but I think Championship to Premier League is huge, and to get a point away at Liverpool, United, City, Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea is difficult enough, but to get 3 is nigh on impossible. You're talking a less than 1% chance, or even probably lower than that. So yeah, I think we need to have a bit more of a fortress at home this year. Obviously, disappointing that we didn't get something against Burnley and didn't get a win against Wolves and didn't get something against Spurs. But yeah, I think we need to start turning those results into points and wins. In terms of away, it doesn't even extend to just the top six. It's your Villa away, your Brighton away. You've got teams like that who are in that sort of ballpark. Your West Ham this year who are looking really good. Those sort of, I guess, second tier away games are even really difficult. So if you're thinking we need 35 points to stay up, then that's, I mean, half of 35 or more than half is going to be 18 points at home and 17 away, and I think that's more likely than the opposite. Obviously, we're already 3 down from an away perspective, but it's going to be a lot tougher. I think Forest only got 2 away wins last year and still stayed up, so that means they had to rely on their home form massively, and I think will be a similar story. You look at Liverpool at home in a couple of weeks' time, our next home game. You're actually I'm fairly positive about that game, and I think we can definitely get a point. Whereas if you look at a United away, well, okay, United's probably a bad example because of what they're seeing at the minute. But if that was an Arsenal away or Liverpool away, I'd be like, now we've lost that, and that's just that slight difference in mindset.
Let us take focus back to Nottingham Forest away. Dylan, it's the time we've all been waiting for. Your starting 11 prediction and, of course, formation as well.
It's difficult because I think, like, before Spurs, we'd never done a back four, so we know we're very adaptable at the minute. Yeah, I think we'll probably go back to 3-4-3 because I think those wide spaces are really important to defend. I think the game will look a little bit more like Fulham. So I'd probably say, obviously, Kaminsky or Horvath, if who fancies it. And then back three, probably Bell, Locks, and Burke if he's fit. I think those wide centre-back profiles being really good 1v1 defenders is going to be super important. If Mads was fit, I'd probably say not sure about Mads in this game, just because of the amount of isolated defending he might need to do. Then I'd probably say Doughty, Kabore, wing-backs, obviously Nakamba and Pelly as the 2. And then Ogbene. Oh, this is the difficult one. Ogbene with Morris at the centre-forward, and then it's difficult because I think it's harsh on Elijah. He's done well, but I'd probably say Brown because he's just a bit more of a natural fit to that wide right. And if we're sitting off in that shape, I think he gives us a lot of ability to carry the ball up the pitch, whereas Elijah needs to be a little bit more back to goal. And he's good at carrying the ball. I just think Brown's a bit better at carrying us up the pitch. I know we mentioned off recording that Lokonga isn't there, and that's a big miss in terms of being able to get us out. When we do win the ball, he just gives us good quality there. But I think that's even more reason why Brown should be out on that right side, because I think he can get us out and give us that forward running that we saw against Fulham, where we'd win the ball on the left side and work a switch through Lokonga quite a lot and Nakamba as well, and then hit Brown on an opposite and get him in behind. So I think, that would probably be my prediction slash preference. But look, like we know with Rob, I mean, he's never expected us to play a back four against Spurs. So, we might have some other plan. They've obviously done their detailed work on Forest that we haven't done. So that would be my kind of prediction.
Jamie, is there a real difference at all in terms of your starting 11 to what Dylan has just presented there?
Very similar, but I think same setup, back five spot on, midfield fine. I think for me, I would like to see Chong in that right sided role. I think if you look at the back four, if Chong's on the right, I think they're probably going to play Toffolo left back, and I think if Chong can get 1v1 against Toffolo, I think he can certainly have him for a lot of the game and isolate him and get at him and get behind. And I think we can see a lot of joy in that specific area on Saturday. And I think Chong's been excellent in his 2 substitute appearances. So I think it gets to the point where you spent a lot of money on someone like Chong. He's meant to be our not talisman, because that's Morris, but we've clearly got a lot of faith in him that we've spent that money on him. So I think in those sort of games, I think he can certainly change the game for us, and I hope that's from the start. In that right of a three. But yeah, that Ogbene, Chong and Morris front three against a back four that I think they've got obviously a very good new centre half in Murillo, but Sergio Aurier and Toffolo as fullbacks I think can be got at and are definitely prone to mistakes. So I think Ogbene and Chong against them two are going to be a very interesting matchup from our perspective.
Yeah, again, I'm very similar. The only sort of question mark, sort of difference, I'll say, was potentially could Barkley come in for Pelly? And I know you lose a little bit of midfield cover.
Forgot about
Yeah, it's easy to forget with all this flexibility, with all these players. It's starting to feel like Forest now with all these players coming. But yeah, could Barkley come in? Does he provide that kind of midfield cover in a two that Pelly would bring? That's where I'm not too sure, but I did just about opt for Barkley over Pelly. But yeah, I guess that is a big old asterisk next to that. That is for sure. Let's go on to the most important part of the show. That is score predictions. And Jamie Castle, I'm going to come to you first.
I'm going to go for 1-1. Yeah, big game. I think we need to get something. So yeah, I think we'll get a point. I think we'll score first, but I think they'll pick us back. I think they'll throw on a few players towards the end. They could have a front four of Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, Gibbs-White, and Origi to end, and that I think against us. I think we are very resolute in defence, but again we could come unstuck with a mistake or a margin that goes against us. So yeah, 1-1.
I'm fed up of Jamie sitting on the fence, Dylan. You any different?
I'm going to be boring as well. No, I think 1-1. I think a point away from home. Forest are a good side. We have to respect that. So yeah, I think 1-1.
Okay, half an hour ago, probably a bit longer than half an hour ago now, I'd done a prediction on a Forest one. I went for 1-1. I sat on my fence. Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Patrick,
but I'm going to try and up the ante, up the mood. I'm going to go for 2-1 Luton. And I'm going to go for dramatic circumstances, i.e. 90+5 or whatever it will be.
Townsend.
I don't care who scores. Townsend, yeah. How fitting would that be?
A screamer from 30 yards.
Yeah, we'll be saving that for United. I'm sure of it. But yeah, I'm going to try and be the positive one, and I'm going to go for 2-1. Create some distance between us and the bottom three. How nice would that be? Well, that is it for today. A big thank you to Jamie and Dylan for joining me. And if you're not already, please subscribe to Oak Road Hatter on YouTube. Like this video, get your comments in, get your score predictions, your lineups, get whatever you want in to the comment section. And of course, on anything else, we are Oak Road Hatter, bar Instagram, where we're Oak Road Hatter Pod. Until Monday, where we'll be dissecting the Forest game and looking ahead to the Villa game, it is goodbye from us.